The next part of the authentic speaking model that I want to talk about is empathetic acknowledgement. This is the hardest aspect of the whole listening process. And actually this is a part of the listening process where you do speak. Empathetic acknowledgement means that when somebody says something and you have an empathetic connection to what they're saying, you actually acknowledge it in a short phrase, phrase meaning one or two words maybe. And essentially what that does is allow them to know that they have connected to you and vice versa, you're connected to them. Now, for example, if somebody is saying something that essentially indicates to me that they're fearful, I would say then, pretty scary, isn't it? Or pretty scary stuff. That's all I would say. And if I connected, you could see a body shift in the speaker. You could see them, kind of get that you got it. They'd say yes, and you know that. Let me give you another example. I was recruiting somebody once a while back in one of the organizations I worked for, and his name was Joe, and Joe was in manufacturing, a manufacturing engineer, and he wanted to come to engineering. So we all liked Joe, so we said, okay, let's make Joe an offer he can't refuse. And we made him that offer, and lo and behold, he refused the offer. So I called Joe up, and I said, Joe, I thought you wanted to come into engineering. We gave you a great offer. What's going on? So what Joe said was a number of things that had nothing to do with how he felt. Well, I'm not sure I'm done with manufacturing yet. I'm not sure I don't have more work to do here. I'm not sure I'm ready. And in the middle of the conversation, I said, you're afraid. Voice just stopped at the other end of the phone. Just stopped. He said, yeah, I'm afraid. I said, Joe, we're not going to let you fail. And here's what we're going to do about it. And at the end of the conversation, he said, yes, I accept your offer. Now, that's a form of empathetic listening that went on real time in a conversation. And that's what I wanted to talk about, that this is really one of the most powerful parts of the listening process, to realize where the person is coming from a feeling or emotional perspective, acknowledge that with a single word or a single word or two or three at the most, and then stop. See what happens. If they get that you got it and they're connected and it resonates, you'll see it. If you didn't get it, that nothing will happen, or they'll say no, they'll deny it. You stop there. You don't respond. You go back into pure listening mode. The next part of the listening process is checking for completion when somebody pauses. Normally, we as listeners are actually rehearsing what we're going to say. We're actually waiting for the person to stop so we can respond. So we might take a period at the end of a sentence saying that the person's finished, or we might take a pause at the end of a paragraph and think they're finished, and there's another sentence or two or three that need to be said. There's another paragraph, 2 or 3 that needs to be said. So checking for completion is a technique or a way of listening where at the end of what they're saying, you come back and say, okay, is that it? Is there anything else you want to say? Is that all that you want to talk about? Are you finished? The reason you want to do that is before you kind of go to the next part of the listening process, you actually get an acknowledgement from them that they are complete and they're ready to turn the conversation over to you. So you want to make sure that they're finished before you take the next stage of the listening process, which we'll cover in the next block.